The notary's name was Gerald Fitch, and he had been dead for 6 years. I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of a title company in suburban Columbus, Ohio, staring at a document on my phone that my real estate attorney just emailed me, and the notary who supposedly witnessed my mother signing a legal codicil to my father's will, a codicil that transferred the house I grew up in out of my name and into my brother's, had been deceased since 2018. I know this because I just Googled him, because that's what you do when a lawyer calls you at 10 in the morning and says, very carefully, Nadia, there's a problem with the title. Gerald Fitch, Notary Public, Franklin County, Ohio, retired 2016, died March 4th, 2018. The codicil was dated September 14th, 2021. My father died on August 22nd, 2021. I sat in that car for a long time. The engine was off. Outside, it was one of those flat gray October days where the light doesn't change from morning to afternoon. Everything just stays the same dim, colorless white all day long. A woman walked past pushing a stroller. A man in a red jacket got into a truck and drove away. The world was completely, insultingly normal. My mother had forged a dead man's signature on a legal document. She had done it 3 weeks after we buried my father. She had stood at his graveside in a black dress and cried, and then she had gone home and forged a notary signature to steal my inheritance and hand it to my brother. And I had had no idea. For 2 years, I had had no idea. Before I go any further, drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from, because this community is everywhere, and I genuinely want to know where you are. And if you're new here, please subscribe. I share real stories every week, stories about real families and real betrayal, and what it actually looks like to survive both. Okay, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you who my father was. His name was Robert Allen O'Coffer. He went by Bobby to everyone who loved him, which was almost everyone he ever met. He was 63 years old when he died, which is too young by any measure, and he died the way people die when they've been quietly managing something serious without telling their family. Suddenly, and then all at once. A stroke on a Tuesday morning in the kitchen. My mother found him at the table. By the time the ambulance came, he was already gone. I'm Nadia O'Coffer Bennett. I'm 31 now, 30 when all of this started. I live in Columbus. I work as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing agency, and up until 2 years ago, I would have described my family as complicated but intact. My parents had been married for 34 years. My brother Marcus was 28, living 40 minutes away in a suburb called Westerville, doing something in sales that he changed the description of every time someone asked. My father was the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and called you on your birthday before you woke up and fixed things around the house with the particular quiet satisfaction of a person who liked making things work. He and I were close, not in a dramatic movie way, in the ordinary way that takes years to build and that you don't fully appreciate until it's gone. We had Sunday phone calls. We argued about football. When I went through a brutal breakup at 26, he drove to Columbus without being asked and took me to dinner at a diner on Morse Road, where he ordered pie and listened for 2 hours and said almost nothing. And it was exactly right. My mother is a different kind of person. Patricia O'Coffer, nee Williams, is a woman of exceptional surfaces. She is gracious and well-dressed and always says the correct thing at the correct moment. And she has the specific, refined social intelligence of someone who learned very early that being liked was safer than being known. She was a good wife, as far as I could tell. She was a fine mother in the sense that she was present and functional and rarely cruel, but she loved Marcus differently than she loved me, and she'd never tried to hide it. Marcus was her project. I was her given. There's a distinction there that took me years to understand, and that I think most daughters with a golden child brother will recognize the second I describe it. My mother didn't love me less. I genuinely don't think so. but she loved Marcus with a specific anxiety that had the texture of devotion. She worried about him the way you worry about something that might break, which meant her attention followed him everywhere, automatically, the way water follows the lowest point in a room. I existed in the outer ring of that orbit, capable, present, unworried about. You know what that does to a person over time? Not always in visible ways. You don't necessarily feel unloved. You feel efficient, solved. And there's a particular loneliness in being the one nobody thinks to check on because you've never given them reason to. You build yourself into someone who doesn't need rescuing, and then you spend years quietly carrying the weight of that. I was good at school, good at taking care of myself, good at decisions and follow through, and not making scenes. Marcus was charming and warm and perpetually mid-pivot. One direction announced at Sunday dinner with breathless optimism, then quietly dissolved by the following month, then a new one, equally earnest. My mother's response was always the same: the forward lean, the brightening, the specific expression of someone who has decided to believe again. I want to be fair to Marcus. He wasn't calculating. He genuinely lived that way, moved through the world expecting things to work out, and when they didn't, reset with remarkable speed. There was something almost admirable in it. There was also something that cost everyone around him, and I don't think he ever fully added up the tab. My father saw all of this. He never named it directly. He wasn't a man who named things when he could show them instead. When I was 17 and got into the governor's art program, over 200 applicants, he took me to dinner alone at a steakhouse on Route 40 where they brought bread before you got the menu, and the booths were high-backed enough that the room disappeared. He said, "I'm so proud of you, Nadia. I want you to know that." He said it with a weight that understood exactly what he was supplementing. He was right to bring the weight. My mother had been absorbed that week in Marcus's interview preparation for a position Marcus didn't end up taking. There's a detail I want to give you now, a small one. It comes back later. When I was about 12, my father showed me where he kept important documents, not in a dramatic way, just matter-of-factly, the way he did things. A fireproof box in the bedroom closet, combination lock, 4 digits. My birthday. He showed me how to open it. He said, "If anything ever happens, you'll know where to look." He looked at me very directly when he said that. Not at my mother, not at Marcus. At me. I thought about that box constantly in the months after he died. He died in August. The funeral was the last week of August. I took bereavement leave from work, drove down from Columbus, and spent 2 weeks at my parents' house, my mother's house now, doing the things you do. Calling people, sorting food that neighbors kept bringing, sitting with my mother as she cycled through the phases of early grief, which in her case looked mostly like a controlled, dignified sorrow that never fully broke open, like she was managing the grief the way she managed everything. My brother Marcus was there, of course. He was attentive in that first week, actually more attentive than I had seen him in years, which I noticed and filed away without fully examining. He made coffee. He took phone calls from relatives my mother didn't want to speak to. He sat beside her on the couch during the long evenings and let her talk about my father, about their early years, about things I hadn't heard before. It was kind. I thought it was kind. I thought he was grieving and expressing it for usefulness, which was not how he usually was, but grief does strange things to people. I went back to Columbus in the September. My mother seemed stable, sad but stable. She had friends, she had her routines, she had Marcus 40 minutes away. I called her every few days. She called me sometimes. We were doing, we said, as well as could be expected. The will had been read in September, 2 weeks after the funeral, in the office of my father's attorney, a quiet man named Howard Chu, who had handled my father's legal affairs for 15 years. Howard Chu was the kind of lawyer who wore the same style of suit in slightly different shades every day, and had a handshake that was always exactly the right firmness. And his office smelled like old paper and the faint cedar of the bookshelves that lined every wall. I remember that smell. I remember the 4 chairs arranged in front of his desk and the way the afternoon light came through the window blinds in long, parallel lines, and the way we none of us looked at each other as he arranged his papers. My mother was there. Marcus was there. I was there, in the chair nearest the door, the one I'd chosen without thinking, the one closest to an exit. That's something I notice now when I look back. My body already knew something. Howard Chu read the whole document. He was precise and thorough, and he read things in order. The retirement accounts and personal possessions went to my mother. The savings account, $18,000, modest, went to Marcus. And then the house. My father left me 4417 Dunmore Drive, the deed, the property, the asset worth somewhere north of $340,000 by any current estimate. He'd told me once, indirectly, the way he told me most things that mattered. 2 summers before he died, back porch, Sunday afternoon. The neighbor's dog was losing its mind over a squirrel in the yard next door. My father handed me a can of lemonade from the cooler and said, "I want you to have something real, Nadia, something that doesn't disappear." I didn't ask what he meant. I just sat with him and watched the dog, and the afternoon went the way good afternoons go. Slowly, without agenda, the kind of thing you don't know you're keeping until it's already gone. I understood in Howard Chu's office. My mother's face, when Howard read that section, did not change. She was prepared. She had known, of course. She was his wife. They'd discussed it. She'd had access to this document for however long it had existed. She sat with her hands folded in her lap and her expression exactly calibrated, the face of a woman who has already processed something and arrived at a decision about it. I know that now. At the time, I thought it was composure. I thought it was grief being held tightly because this was not the room to let it out. What I did not think, what I couldn't have thought because it was not yet a thing I understood her to be capable of, was that she was already several steps ahead. Marcus looked at me across the room. His expression was harder to read, something between resignation and something else I couldn't name. He said nothing, neither did I. We drove home in separate cars. In the weeks after the will reading, my mother and I had several conversations about the house, practical conversations. What she wanted to keep, whether she intended to stay or would eventually want to move somewhere smaller, whether any of the furniture should go to Marcus. She spoke about it all very calmly. She said she understood the arrangement completely. She said my father had always intended the house for me. She said she just needed a little time. She asked to stay through the winter. I said, of course. It was October. I wasn't going to list the house while my mother was still arranging her grief. And that was the last real conversation we had about it. Because in November, I called to check in, and something was different. Not dramatically, just the texture of the calls had shifted. She was warmer almost, more forthcoming. She started mentioning Marcus more. Small things at first. He'd fixed the gutters. He'd come for dinner on Sunday. He'd helped her rearrange the furniture in the living room. He was there constantly, it sounded like. I told myself this was normal. This was grief. People orbit each other when they're afraid. They want to be near what they still have. But there were other things I was cataloging without meaning to. The way she started saying we on phone calls. Not she and I, she and Marcus. We're thinking about repainting the kitchen. We looked into that. We had a really nice weekend. Small pronoun, large implication. And the calls themselves, they had a different quality, a kind of lightness I hadn't expected this soon. I'd been worried about her, genuinely, in the way you worry about someone who has been married for 34 years and is now alone in a house that was always built for 2 people. But she didn't sound like someone struggling. She sounded, if I'm honest, like someone who had gotten something sorted. I noted this. I didn't examine it. Christmas, I drove down. The house looked mostly the same, though she'd moved some things. The furniture in the living room had shifted, and there were a few new pieces I didn't recognize.
A side table, a lamp, objects that appeared in the space the way objects appear when someone is quietly making a place feel different. Marcus was there with his girlfriend Dana, a quiet woman with careful eyes, who smiled a lot and said very little. We had a nice Christmas. My mother made my father's potato soup, the one he always made on Christmas Eve, the one with the dill and the bay leaf and the sour cream stirred in at the end. And we ate it quietly at the kitchen table, and nobody said what we were all thinking, which was that the chair at the head of the table had a sweater draped over its back that belonged to my father, and none of us were ready to move it. Dana caught my eye once during dinner. I can't tell you exactly what passed in that look. Something like acknowledgement. Something like she knew something and was measuring how much I knew and finding the measurement smaller than hers. I filed it away and told myself I was reading into things. I was not reading into things. In January, my mother mentioned she was thinking of staying put for now. Fine, of course. I hadn't expected anything different. In March, she mentioned very casually, the way you mention the weather, that Marcus had been looking into investment property and the neighborhood was really coming up. She said it in a tone that was almost informational, like she was passing along something interesting she'd read. I said, "Oh." And then the conversation moved on. But I sat with it after the call. I sat with it for maybe 20 minutes, and then I told myself I was being paranoid and made dinner and watched TV and went to bed. In May, she mentioned that Marcus had been so helpful with everything, and she didn't know what she'd do without him. I said I was glad. I said I was sorry I couldn't be there more. Columbus to their suburb was a 2-hour drive, and between work and life it was harder than I wanted it to be. I said it, and I meant it, and I also felt, as I always did, the specific small sting of the way she managed to point at Marcus's presence and my absence in the same sentence without ever seeming to intend anything by it.
Summer came. 1 year. My mother seemed to be doing better by every visible measure. She was getting out, she had friends, she joined a grief support group at her church that she mentioned once and then never again. I visited in July. Long weekend. We sorted through more of my father's things, his books, the tools in the garage, the boxes in the basement that hadn't been opened since we'd moved in. We were careful with each other. Careful in the way families are careful when something is not fully resolved, but everyone has decided that fracturing it further would be worse. I drove home Sunday night, windows down, summer air, the long, flat stretch of I-70 between their suburb and Columbus. I thought, things are okay. We're going to be okay. 6 weeks later, I called Priya Sandhu. I wasn't in a rush, exactly, but I'd been thinking about what to do with the house. I wasn't planning to sell immediately. My mother was still living there, but I wanted to understand my options. Equity, refinancing, whether there was a way to eventually help my mother move somewhere smaller and use the property to do it. Practical things, responsible things, the things my father had trusted me to think about when he left me something real. My attorney's name is Priya Sandhu. She's been practicing in Columbus for 12 years, and she has the particular calm of someone who has seen a lot of things go sideways and has learned that panic is expensive. She ran the title search as part of standard due diligence, and then she called me. "Nadia," she said, "there's a problem with the title." She explained it carefully, in the way lawyers explain things when the news is serious enough that they want you to understand every word. There was a codicil, an amendment to my father's will, added after the original document, supposedly executed 3 weeks after my father's death. It stated that the property at 4417 Dunmore Drive, Columbus, Ohio, was to be transferred to Marcus Robert Okafor. It was signed by my mother. It had been notarized. The notary, Priya said, and there was something in her voice, a careful flatness. His name is Gerald Fitch. She spelled it out for me. I Googled him while she was still on the phone. retired 2016, died March 4th, 2018. The codicil was dated September 14th, 2021. I don't fully remember the rest of that phone call. I know Priya kept talking. She said words like forgery and fraud and you need to understand this is serious. And I know I said something, responded somehow, because eventually the call ended. But my actual memory of those minutes is just the parking lot, the flat gray sky, the woman with the stroller, the man in the red jacket, and the date, March 4th, 2018. And the date, September 14th, 2021. And the gap between them, which was the gap where my mother had found a dead man's name and used it, which meant she had planned this. Not in a panicked, reactive moment, planned. She had researched notaries. She had found one who couldn't deny it. She had made sure the signature could never be challenged by the person who'd made it. I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember the route. I sat in my apartment for the rest of that day and into the evening, and I did not call my mother. I didn't call Marcus. I called my friend, Yolanda, who has known me since college and who is the kind of person who picks up on the second ring and doesn't say anything unnecessary. I told her what had happened. She was quiet for a moment and then she said, "Okay, what do you need?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Okay," she said again. "I'm here." I called Priya the next morning. I told her I wanted to know every option. She told me, contesting a forged codicil in probate court, filing a fraud claim, potential criminal charges. The process was not going to be fast. It was not going to be cheap. And it was going to require me to make a choice about how hard I was willing to push against my own family. She said it matter-of-factly, the way Priya says most things, and I appreciated the directness. She wasn't telling me what to do. She was making sure I understood what doing something meant. I went to my parents' house on a Saturday. My mother was in the kitchen when I arrived. She had made coffee, had a mug on the counter, was reading something on her tablet at the kitchen island. She looked up when I came in, smiled the way she always smiled, said, "Nadia, I didn't know you were coming." "I know," I said. She looked at me for a moment. She set down her tablet. "Sit down," I said. She did, and something shifted in her face. Not guilt exactly, more like the specific expression of someone who has been running a long race and just now, finally, hears the footsteps catching up.
"Priya Sandhu ran a title search on the house," I said. Silence. "She found the codicil." My mother looked at the counter. She picked up her mug and set it down. "Gerald Fitch," I said. "The notary." She said nothing. "He died in 2018, Mom." She was very still. Outside, a car went past. The refrigerator hummed, there was coffee warming in the pot, and the kitchen smelled like it always smelled. Roasted beans and something faintly floral from whatever hand lotion she used. And it was such an ordinary morning, in such an ordinary kitchen, that the thing I was saying felt almost impossible to be saying in it. "Why?" I said. She looked at me then, and the thing I hadn't expected, the thing I wasn't ready for, was that she didn't look ashamed. She looked tired, deeply, genuinely tired, the way someone looks when they've been carrying something heavy for a long time and have stopped pretending it isn't heavy. "He needed it more than you do," she said. 4 words, said quietly, said plainly, as if this were a reasonable thing to say, as if she had thought it through and arrived at it logically and was simply informing me of the conclusion. I sat with it, made myself, because I knew if I spoke immediately, I'd say something from a place in me that I didn't want running this conversation. "He has nothing, Nadia," she pressed on. "He's been struggling for years. You have your job, your apartment, your whole—" She gestured at the air, at whatever she meant by everything I had.
You've always been okay. Dad left it to me, I said. Your father didn't understand. He understood exactly. My voice was even. I'd decided, somewhere on the drive down, that I was going to be even. He chose me. She flinched. Small. Visible. He chose you because you're the one he never had to worry about, she said. That isn't the compliment you think it is. Don't tell me what he thought. I'm telling you what I know. You don't get to interpret him, I said. Not now. Not after what you did. She was quiet. I looked at her. I looked at her very deliberately, this woman who had raised me, who stood at my father's grave in black and cried actual tears, and then went home and began planning this. I looked at her and I tried to find the villain I needed her to be, the clean, legible villain of the kind of story where the betrayal is simple. I couldn't find her. What I found instead was something more complicated and, in some ways, worse. A woman who was frightened of losing her son, who had been managing that fear for 30 years, who had reached into herself in a moment of grief and loss and found that the fear was bigger than everything else, including me. Did Marcus ask you to do it? I said. She hesitated. There it was. Did he specifically ask? It was my decision, she said. That's not what I asked. She looked at the window, at nothing, at something outside that I couldn't see from where I was sitting. He said he was worried about his future, she said finally. He said he didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't ask me to do anything. But you heard it as a request. She didn't answer, which was the answer. You've been hearing his worry as a request your whole life, I said. It wasn't an accusation exactly. It was just something I understood in that moment, with the kind of clarity you get when you've been looking at a thing long enough that its shape finally resolves. Every time he struggled, you heard it as a call for you to fix it, and you always found a way. That's what mothers do. Not with money that doesn't belong to them, I said. She picked up her mug again, set it down again. It was empty. I want you to know that I love you. I know you do, and I'm sorry. The words sat between us. I let it sit. I'm going to file the legal challenge, I said. I want you to know that. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. I'm not going to negotiate. I'm just telling you what's coming. She nodded. She looked, for the first time in my memory, genuinely old. Not old in years, old in the way people look when something has caught up to them that they can't outpace anymore. I stood up. I took my coat from the back of the chair. I looked at her one more time. He showed me the combination to the fireproof box when I was 12. He made it my birthday. Not yours, not Marcus's. She didn't say anything. He knew what he was doing, I said again. And I left. Marcus called me that night. He'd clearly spoken to my mother. His voice had the specific, careful quality of someone who had been told what was coming and had prepared something to say. He said he hadn't known about the forged notary. He said he thought my mother had done it through proper legal channels, that she'd found some way to contest or amend the will legitimately. He said he'd asked her if it was legal, and she said yes. Did you look into it yourself? Pause. Marcus? She said she handled it. So, no. Another pause. No. I said, you knew the house wasn't yours. You knew Dad left it to me. I know. And you just accepted it anyway? Nadia, you took it, I said. Maybe you didn't forge anything, but you took it, and you let her do whatever she did to make it happen. He didn't have an answer for that. Or maybe he did, but he knew it wasn't good enough, and I knew it wasn't good enough, and so we just sat in the silence of it for a moment. What are you going to do? He said finally. I'm going to take it back, I said. I meant it. and I did it. The legal process took 14 months. 14 months of probate court filings and depositions and document requests and fees that I partially covered with a personal loan and partially with help from Yolanda, who transferred money to my account with a text that said simply, "Don't argue with me about this." I didn't argue. I told her I'd pay her back. She said we'd figure out the language later. Priya was methodical and thorough and charged me a rate she told me directly was below her standard because, and I remember her exact phrasing, "This is a textbook case and I want to see how it ends." I want to tell you what 14 months of fighting your own family in probate court actually feels like, because it is not the way it looks in movies. There are no dramatic courtroom scenes, there are no speeches, there is paperwork, there is email. There are phone calls with your lawyer that begin with her saying, "So, here's where we are," in a tone that tells you immediately whether the news is good or just manageable. There are evenings where you sit in your apartment and do math you don't want to do, adding up what this is costing and what you'll have left and whether it's still worth it. There are mornings where you wake up at 3 a.m. with a chest full of something that isn't quite anxiety and isn't quite grief and doesn't have a clean name. There are also, unexpectedly, moments of strange clarity, where the thing you're doing feels so obviously right that the cost almost doesn't register. The forgery wasn't hard to prove. A dead notary is a dead notary. The Franklin County Probate Court voided the codicil within 6 months of the case filing. That part moved faster than Priya had projected. What took longer was the supplementary proceedings. My mother's attorney, a man who clearly found the whole thing distasteful and said so once to Priya, in a conversation Priya later relayed to me with a kind of clinical amusement, argued that my mother had acted in good faith, that she'd engaged a third party to prepare the document, that she had not fully understood the legal requirements. It was an argument built on sand, and everyone knew it was built on sand, but it still had to be disproven document by document. Marcus cooperated fully with the investigation. He gave his deposition clearly and without evasion. He confirmed that he had known the house was mine by the terms of the original will. He confirmed that he had moved certain personal property into the house over the preceding year. He confirmed that he had not personally participated in preparing or filing the codicil, but had been aware of its existence. His cooperation was, as Priya put it, the legally intelligent thing to do. I think it was also, in some quieter way, the right thing, a delayed acknowledgement of a thing he'd let happen that he couldn't fully undo, but could at least stop obstructing. My mother and I did not speak for 8 months during the case. She did not call, I did not call. My Aunt Gloria, my mother's older sister, a woman who has always been the kind of good that doesn't require explanation, called me twice. The first time to say she was sorry, that she didn't condone it, that she loved me. The second time to say my mother wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating well, was sitting in the house a lot. I said I'd think about calling. I thought about it for a long time. Marcus and I had a single dinner during those 14 months. A Tuesday in February, a Thai restaurant in Westerville that was warm and smelled like coconut milk and chili, and outside everything was gray and frozen, and the streets had that particular February emptiness. We sat across from each other and ordered things we mostly didn't eat. He told me what it had been like from his end, the moment Priya's investigation began, the call from his mother, the conversation with his own lawyer, the deposition. He was honest about it in a way I hadn't expected. He didn't perform contrition, he just talked. She told me she handled everything properly, he said. I should have asked what properly meant. You knew it was my house. I know. And you moved things in anyway? He looked at his plate. I moved a desk, some boxes. I kept telling myself it wasn't permanent, that it would get sorted. By who? He didn't answer. I said you wanted it to work out for you, and she gave you a way for it to work out for you, and you didn't push on the details because you were afraid of what the details would tell you.
He was quiet for a long time. Then, yeah, that was the most honest single syllable Marcus had ever offered me. I sat with it. I didn't forgive him right there. I'm not going to tell you it works that way because it doesn't, but I kept it. I put it somewhere real, somewhere I could find it later when I needed to decide what kind of relationship was still possible. The house reverted to me 14 months after Priya filed the first document. The deed was corrected, my name back where my father had put it. I sold it 8 months after the deed was corrected. Not immediately. I gave myself time with the decision, which felt important. There was a version of this where I kept it, where I found a tenant or eventually moved in myself, or used it as some kind of anchor to the life I'd grown up in. I thought about that version. I sat with it for a few months, honestly and seriously. But the house was 2 hours away. It needed a new roof and probably new windows and the kind of ongoing attention that a property at that distance from your actual life eventually extracts whether you want it to or not. And there was something else, something harder to name. The house had become, through the course of everything that happened, the center of so much. My father's intention, my mother's betrayal, the 14 months of legal grinding. Every time I thought about it, it carried all of that. I wasn't sure I could separate the property from the weight. My father had wanted me to have something real, something that doesn't disappear. I kept coming back to that, and I decided that the something real didn't have to look exactly like what he'd imagined. It just had to be real, solid, mine. The sale closed on a Thursday, $347,000. After agent fees and legal costs and the remaining balance on the personal loan, I cleared just under $310,000. It's in an account I look at sometimes, still slightly surprised by it, by the fact that it's there, that it held, that the number is real. Part of it went back to Yolanda with interest she refused but accepted anyway. Part of it is earmarked for something I'm still deciding on. My own place, probably. A down payment on something I actually choose, with my own name on the deed, no qualifications, no codicils, no forged signatures required. My father wanted me to have something real. Here it is, Dad. I called my mother the month after the sale closed. She answered on the third ring, 2 more than usual, and there was a pause when she heard my voice. A breath, something recalibrating on her end. "Nadia," she said. "Hi, Mom." We talked for 40 minutes, not about the house, not about the codicil, or the court, or Gerald Fitch, or any of it. We talked about Gloria's knee replacement surgery and the recovery that was going slower than expected. We talked about the new family that had moved in next door to her, a young couple with a baby, she said, and something in her voice when she said it was both wistful and warm. We talked about whether Marcus and Dana were serious, which my mother thought they were, which she said with something like hope in her voice that I decided not to examine too closely. It was ordinary. It was careful and ordinary, and there was a great deal unsaid in every silence. But we both stayed on the line. We both kept talking. And at the end, before we said goodbye, my mother said, "I'm sorry, Nadia." Just those 2 words. No explanation trailing behind them, no justification, no qualification, no context meant to soften the edges. Just the words said plainly in her voice. I said, "I know." I meant it. Not as absolution, that's a longer, more ongoing thing, and I'm still in the middle of it. But I meant it as the truth. I do know. I know she is sorry. I know the thing she did surprised even her, came from a place inside her she probably didn't fully map until she was already past it. I know that the fear of losing Marcus had been operating in her for so long it had stopped feeling like a choice and started feeling like a reflex. Reflexes can still cause damage. They can cause profound, deliberate feeling damage, and they can still be reflexes. I don't say any of that to let her off the hook. I say it because it's true, and because carrying only the version where she's a villain has a cost I've decided not to pay indefinitely. I kept one thing from the house, just one,
Before the estate sale, before the professional cleaners came through, I went back alone on a Friday afternoon, walked through the rooms one last time. The living room with the furniture mostly gone, the kitchen with its ghost of coffee and hand lotion, the back porch where my father and I had watched the neighbor's dog, the bedroom closet, the fireproof box. I knew the combination. 4 digits, my birthday. Inside, the original will, insurance documents, my parents' marriage certificate still in its original envelope from the county clerk, my father's military discharge papers from a service I'd known about but never asked enough about. And at the bottom, under everything else, a handwritten note on a piece of lined paper. It said, "Nadia, if you found this, I trust you already know everything you need to know. Use it well. Love, Dad." He'd written it sometime. I don't know when. I don't know if he knew what was coming, or if he just knew her, or if he was just a man who liked things to be clear. I've thought about it a lot, and I've decided I probably won't ever know, and that's okay. I took the note, and I left the box. I locked the house for the last time on a Friday afternoon in March, with the light going flat and gold the way it does at the end of winter days. And I sat in my car in front of the house for maybe 10 minutes, not doing anything, just looking at it. At the tree in the front yard that my father had planted when I was 4, at the porch where he'd strung lights every Christmas and taken them down every January without complaint, at the window of the bedroom where he'd shown me the box with the combination that was my birthday. Then I started the car and I drove home. The note is in my apartment now, in a frame on my desk, actually, which feels a little sentimental, more sentimental than I usually am, but I've decided to allow it. Some things you're allowed to hold on to. Some things you hold on to not because you can't let go, but because you've thought about it and decided they're worth keeping. I'm 31 years old. I have a job I'm good at, an apartment I love, and a savings account that gives me, for the first time in my life, actual options. I have Yolanda, who is my family in every way that counts. I have Marcus, who is complicated and imperfect, and who has been showing up slowly in ways that are new, who calls sometimes for no reason, which he never used to do, and who asked me in January if I wanted to get dinner, just us, and I said yes. I have my mother, at a distance that is honest about what the distance is, and I have my father, in the way you have someone after they're gone, in the things they taught you, the things they left you, the specific frequency of a voice you can still hear when you're very quiet. He wanted me to have something real. He was right that I needed it. And here's the thing I keep coming back to, late at night when the apartment is quiet and I'm sitting at my desk with the note in its frame catching the light. He knew. He'd known for years, probably. He'd known the house would go to me and what that would do to the room, and he'd planned for it as carefully as he could, and then he put the note in the box and trusted me to find it. He trusted me. Not because I was easy or low maintenance or fine, but because he knew me well enough to know I'd know what to do with something real. I think about Gerald Fitch sometimes, a notary in Franklin County, Ohio, who retired in 2016 and died in the winter of 2018, probably without knowing his name would be attached to a forgery 3 years later. He couldn't have known. He was just a man doing his job, and then he was gone, and someone found his name and used it, and the document didn't hold because dead men can't confirm what they didn't witness. There's something in that I'm still working out, about the things we put our names to, about what survives us and what doesn't, and who gets to decide. My father put his name to a will that said, "This house belongs to Nadia." That held.